Welcome, friends! Today we're gonna look back and see just how good the original Donkey Kong Country actually was. First, we'll talk about the overall premise and mechanics, and then we'll talk about the interesting bits of individual stages, while giving each of them a proper letter grade, so that at the end we can average out all of the scores, for a thorough sense of just how good Donkey Kong Country actually is. As you may already know, the graphics are 3D rendered sprites. The 3D models were rendered on the very expensive Silicon graphics computers. The same computers that were used to develop the CGI in movies like Jurassic Park and Toy Story. The graphics of this game were a very impressive thing when it came out. And while the graphics of Kong Dong Country aren't anywhere near as groundbreaking now as they were then, I think it still holds up, and looks great. I feel like games that had these rendered or digitized sprites aged quite well. I think they look fine. I think it's a really cool aesthetic even. Naturally, this game is a 2D platformer, as it was the standard for 90s mascot characters. The same old traditional formula from the ancient past. Start on the left, and go right until you reach the exit. And if you collect 100 Banana Nana Fofanas, you'll get an extra life. 1-ups come in the form of these colorful balloons with John Kong's face on them. We also have these letters that you can collect to spell the word Kong. And if you find all 4 of them from a single level, then you'll also get an extra life. There are many secrets to find, and when you find all of them within a particular stage, the game will mark the end of that stage's name with an exclamation point. However, for some odd reason, the Kong letters do not count towards anything. You'd think that they'd count towards something and all that, but all they're actually good for is that extra life. Of course, you die in one hit because that's how these games work. But the spin on that in this game is that you'll find a second Kong in these DK barrels, who will follow you around and act as a second life point. Something else that makes it interesting is that the Kongs have some different properties about them. Donkey Kong is bigger and stronger. He can take out enemies in a single bounce in cases where Diddy would have to hit them twice, or even some enemies that Diddy can't even bounce on. Conky can also pound the ground by holding down and hitting Y, which can attack enemies, but also reveal secrets under the ground. They also carry the barrels differently. Jonky carries his overhead, and the far weaker Diddy Dong carries his barrel in front of him like a beta. Both of them have a rolling attack, and there's also this trick you can do by jumping out of a roll in mid-air. And it's an intentionally included technique. Cranky Kong even tells it to you as one of his tips. Now Diddy Schlong runs faster and jumps higher than Jonky Dong. Piddly Dong is also the faster swimmer and is more agile in the water. And lastly, you can also press the select button or the A button to swap Kongs at any time. I'll say that this game feels mechanically very smooth. You can also get a great sense of speed while maintaining very precise control. It generally feels pretty good and very natural to control. So far so good. Now let's see the levels. Welcome to Donkey Kong Island. Beautiful, isn't it? The overworld in this game has a lot of personality, and the honky music gives it a nice homey vibe. Alright, jungle hijinks, let's get it. Right off the bat, this level blasts you off to a running start. This is a really fun stage to just run right through. But I really like how if you turn around at the start, you can go inside of this cave here to see your empty banana hoard. So the story goes that the Kremling stole all of the bananas, leaving an obvious trail of them as they made off, which are canonically the same bananas that you collect across the stages. Bananas seem like an odd thing to hoard though. They go bad so fast. You can't really save them up like that. But that's the story, and we're sticking to it. You can also climb up the treehouse and actually go inside. This is really cool. It's such a small thing, but it's so charming. Of course there's an extra life in here, but it's just fun to see inside of Donkey Kong's house. I guess they didn't get all the bananas. All of the little details are great. There's little butterflies flying around, and he got a little fish too. There's just so much personality here. It's just a cool place to be, really. This first stage is such a blast. You can just run right through it, or you can jump across the treetops and find extra stuff along the way. I really enjoy having multiple paths in a stage or different ways to traverse platformers. It's done in a clever and playful way here. It feels good to get rewarded for exploring too. Exploration might just be my favorite part of video games. And for as simple as this game is, there is quite a lot to explore. The first stage also does a good job of teaching you the basics of the game. We get to see a variety of different enemy types, and all of the challenges come one at a time at an immersive pace. This first stage is a good safe space to explore the mechanics of the game. Now this bird enemy will challenge a first-time player. Of course you can just run right past him, but if you wander about here for too long, he's likely to get you. And they put a reward there, so you'll investigate. And just ahead, we'll see the first animal buddy, Rambi the Rhino. Riding him makes the rest of the level so much fun to just run down. He can just run through enemies. And they tactfully placed 2 secret areas in places where you might just run right into them. Normally you would need to break these open with barrels, but Rambi's horn can charge right on through. And that first secret cave is full of bananas, and it's so much fun to just keep running. This stage is just an absolute blast, as well as being an extremely intuitive tutorial. As was the case for most games back in the day, the first level was often the best. They'd give it everything they got and throw it all up front, with the best hit soundtrack and every special effect they can think of. Because most people aren't likely to play these old games for all that long. But also, the first stage is your first impression. And in a lot of these old games, the first stage might even be the only one that you'd actually beat. If you were playing games back then, it might surprise you to look back and think about if you've seen more than 2 stages in some of these old games. So naturally, the first level in the DKC is absolutely fantastic. And the now iconic DK Island Swing soundtrack that plays in the background here was actually composed by mashing up 3 jungle demo songs that Rare asked David Wise to produce as placeholder music, which was planned to later be replaced by Koji Kondo. But Nintendo was so impressed with his work that Mr. Wise would go on to be the main composer of the soundtrack. The music in this game is actually quite impressive. It works around the Super Nintendo's limited number of audio channels by using lots and lots of audio samples. And our guy painfully programmed all of it by hand to save memory. The music in the first level is very immersive, and the scene changes from day to night near the exit for a nice send-off to the second stage. This first level is absolutely fantastic, and I give it an A+. Now on to the next. In Ropey Rampage, it's a dark and stormy night. The atmosphere is so thick. We got an armadillo guy right here at the start, so you can learn how he works. He rolls around, of course, but he takes 2 hits for Diddy to take down, and the much bigger Donkey Kong can take him down in a single bounce. And we get to see our first rope here as well. This stage is all about the ropes. It's a relatively easy stage, but it takes a big step up in difficulty from the first level. First-time players will likely die a few times here, as they get used to jumping across the ropes. I really like this stage. Definitely another A+ experience. It looks super cool with the storm, and it's also got a nice flowing pace. The secrets in this level, though, are not in places that you're likely to find. They're hidden in spots where you should fall to your death. It's like you're just meant to have the strategy guide to find these. I don't like that, but I also don't feel like the bonus stuff in this game hardly even matters. Because all it counts towards is getting a few different lines of dialogue at the end of the game. So it's whatever. But I do enjoy how you get launched really far when you come out of that first bonus area. It skips a large portion of the stage. And towards the end of the level, the storm clears as the sun rises. These little details make the world feel so much more immersive. I love it. So we emerge from the storm to meet Cranky Kong. He's always full of quirky jokes and quick tips. He'll say different stuff each time you come back, too. I don't know if it's random or what it's all based on, but Cranky Kong has a lot of different things to say. And it makes the world feel so much richer. And if you keep coming back, he calls you out on it. Cranky Kong is great, and I enjoy him enough to visit each location at least once. So next we're spelunking. Down into the caves we go. We got another totally immersive soundtrack. The difficulty is still slowly building on itself. In this level, we got lots of jumping enemies, and then lots of tires to bounce on. It's a relatively easy stage that's short and sweet. It could, however, be a bit tricky for a new player. There's lots of bonus areas in the cave, and they're all pretty much in obvious locations, where you'll probably just run right into them. I like this stage. It's a solid C. It's fine, a bit dull maybe. I think that may be on purpose though, as to give a break from the first two levels. And it serves as a palate cleanser for the beauty of the next stage. Because we're going under the sea. This stage is so serene, and the background music is absolutely enchanting. And we also get to see On Guard the swordfish. The animal buddies are so well designed for the stages they're placed in. This is a nice relaxing stage, so you can just get a feel for the underwater mechanics. While there aren't any bonus areas in this level, there are still a few secrets to find. It's a lot of fun to explore around here because it's just a cool place to be. I absolutely love this stage, definitely an A+. We'll come out of the water to see the first Funky Flights. Funky Kong is such a radical guy, jamming out on his surfboard all day, and he'll take us back to any previous worlds that we've already unlocked. And fun fact, this totally radical song was originally written for Killer Instinct, but Nintendo liked it so much that they wanted to use it for Donkey Kong Country's E3 promotion. Alright, so this next stage is quite literally a blast. You'll be barrel blasting across most of the stage. And if you take the top path, you can blast over the first half of it in a single leap. It's a lot of fun flying off like this. I really like the design of this stage. It's challenging in a fair way. And timing the barrels is exciting and tense. We got another conspicuously placed bonus area here, where instead of shooting into the obvious barrel that progresses the stage, you're supposed to blast into the wall, which, if you didn't know any better, would lead to your death. You shouldn't be incentivized to leap to your death all over the place while looking for secrets. And again, it's like you're just supposed to have the strategy guide if you want to find all the bonus areas. But bonus areas aside, I really like this stage. It's perfect. A+. Blasting out of Barrel Cannon Canyon brings us to our first save point. How would you like a quick spin in my save barrel?
I'd shower you with coconut cream pies.
Don't mind if I do. I'm doing tricks in that save barrel. Watch me. Alright, it's boss time. I wonder if this giant pile of bananas are from Jong Kong's stolen hoard. The story goes that K. Rool doesn't even know what to do with all the bananas he stole. So he's just piled them up in random places with big baddies placed to guard them. I love how the beavers in this game are called naughties, and this boss one is called Very Naughty. This game is just brimming with personality. And I love the boss arena. The mood and the atmosphere are so on point, just like everything else thus far. This first boss is really easy. You just jump on him a few times, it's over really fast. A good first boss to get your feet wet. The arena is totally sick, and it's a lot of fun. A+. This first world has done a really good job with pacing the player through its various styles of gameplay and mechanics. The only stage that was kind of lame was that cave level. And it's not a bad stage, it's just boring. Overall, this first world is fantastic. Now on to the next. It's time for the Monkey Mines. Winky's Walkway, let's get it. I love the chilled out atmosphere in here. This stage is all about those bottomless pits. It's another relatively easy stage, but the game is still gradually stepping up the difficulty. We got some respawning enemies that pressure you to keep moving, and we get to see Winky the Frog for the first time, as is the level's namesake. Naturally, he makes the level even easier to traverse with his massive hops, but he's also just fun to ride around on. This is a great stage. Solid A. And now we'll get introduced to our first minecart level, with Minecart Carnage. I love how this game breaks up the action with varying types of gameplay, keeps things fresh and exciting, and oh boy, is this stage exciting. It's super tense. I really like this stage, but I feel like it's a bit too difficult for what should be our introduction to the minecarts. This is going to be a frustrating experience for a new player. Hope you've been farming extra lives in that first world. There's just so many tight jumps here that you have to be perfect all the way through, and there's not really any room for error. I'm gonna give this stage a B because it's still a great level, but it's just not a good introduction to the minecart style of gameplay. This stage is such a steep step in difficulty from anything that we've experienced so far, that a new player might even just quit here. So we emerge from the mines for a bouncy bonanza. It's another cave level. I'll say that this stage is a lot more interesting than the other cave from World 1. And you can get the frog here, which makes it even better. I don't appreciate how this bonus area blasts you right into a zinger. That's dumb. But the rest of the level is really good. It's a solid B. Next up, we got the Stop and Go. Another interesting stage with a different style of gameplay. You touch the barrels to temporarily freeze enemies, who are otherwise unstoppable. You've got just the right amount of time to get to the next one, that it feels like a good and fair challenge. I really like this mechanic, and this stage is fun in a thrilling and suspenseful way, with an appropriate difficulty for how far in we are. A very good B+ experience. And now, for my favorite level, Millstone Mayhem. The temple theme is so good. I wish they'd included a second temple stage in this world over all those dreary caves. The ambient background music brings it all together and gives this place such a vibe. The wonder and the beauty also incite exploration. I love this stage, and it's got the perfect amount of challenge for World 2. Winky comes back for another round, and this is a fun place to have him. An excellent A+ stage. And that leads us to our next boss battle. The arena is another huge banana pile. It's a really cool aesthetic, and it makes this feel like a special place. Obviously, we gotta use the tire to bounce on him. It's a good use of mechanics that the player should already be familiar with. A bit more difficult than the first boss. It would be a good challenge for a new player. I think this is a perfectly designed boss battle. A+. And with that, we're at the end of the second world. It was good, but it could have been a lot better. World 2 rounds out with a B+. Now let's see what World 3 has to offer. The overworld scene is such a beautiful view. Vulture culture. The stages are so well named, and this one is exactly what it says on the tin. With lots of barrel blasting and bird hopping, the difficulty is still slowly building, and the game is starting to feel a bit more complex. This stage is simply enjoyable to play through. It's beautifully themed, and the music hits us with more of that lovely ambience. This stage is an A+ well-designed experience. Next up, we got another barrel blasting adventure through the treetop town. This is a really cool stage. It's kind of tough though, but now we're far enough into the game for a challenge like this to be appropriate. Patience is everything here. Blasting out of the barrels is so satisfying. The environment is also really interesting, and the challenge is engaging. An A+ level. Next, we get another one of those beautiful forest levels, at the Forest Frenzy. And this time, it's all about the ropes. There's a few tricky spots here, but mostly it's a joyride. We're starting to have lots of opportunities to really express your skill. It feels good to play through this stage, and it's all around another fantastic A+ experience. Alright, Temple Tempest. Aw yeah, we got a second temple stage. Probably my favorite aesthetic so far. The temple stages are such a vibe. There's this really cool bonus area right near the start, where you can bounce across on all these birds. And I just learned this, but you get extra lives for bouncing on enemies in a long combo. We also get to see Espresso the ostrich for the first time. It's super hype, but this stage just isn't laid out very well for him. He's supposed to be able to just run wild, and his long legs are meant to stand above the small enemies. But because of the way these steps are, you still get hit, so you don't get to enjoy one of his main perks. But there's also lots of these jumper boys here. Certain groups of them are placed such that you can just run right past them, but others make it feel like you're just not supposed to get past them without losing your buddy. I replayed this stage a few times just to see if I could get him all the way across. It's kind of tough, but you can do it. It's still an amazing stage. It's a solid A, but it's kind of lame that you don't really get to enjoy the animal buddy as much as you should be able to in a stage that seems like it was kind of built around him, especially on his first appearance. You're likely just to lose him right away even. But that's okay, because he comes back around in the next level. Orangutan Gang. Oh no. This level gives us a steel barrel right at the start, and if you jump on it, then you can ride it. That's so sick. Both Kongs can ride the barrel as well. I love how many varying types of experiences that this game has. It's like every single stage is designed to be wholly its own unique experience. And when the evening sets, this stage becomes truly beautiful. It's got a nice level of challenge to it as well. And here we get to see our boy Espresso truly shine. You can fully enjoy him in this stage, and his flying abilities are much appreciated. Another A+ experience. Something else about this level is that there are a whopping 5 bonus areas to find. It's a relatively large stage, and there's lots of interesting places to explore. Absolutely fantastic. I love it. And we follow that up with another water level. It's the Clam City. And this time, we're in darker water. It's a lot more challenging. We got this boy guarding a bunch of bananas. He thinks he's slick, but I'm gonna get those. This is a good way to introduce a new enemy type or mechanic. To just have one right at the beginning, in a safe space like this, before they're thrown at you in difficult situations. This level is so full of enemies, you have to advance cautiously. It's another lovely place to explore, but there aren't any bonus areas here. You can, however, find On Guard hiding behind a secret wall. And he makes it a lot easier to get through the schools of enemies swimming around. It's another very well designed A+ stage. And now it's boss time. Bumblebee Rumble. It's the queen of all zingers. And just like the regular zingers, we hurt it with barrels. Then she goes all crazy after getting hit. This is a great boss battle. A+ for sure. And taking her down wraps up World 3, which has been the most enjoyable of the worlds so far. All of the stages here were fantastic, while still offering a good challenge. And now, we're off to Gorilla Glacier. It's a winter wonderland. First up, we got Snow Barrel Blast. You know what that means. There's lots of barrel blasting here. Now this stage is punishing and unforgiving, but here in World 4, this is exactly what I want. The snow area is absolutely gorgeous. The scene also changes as you progress through the level. First it goes dark, and then it starts to snow. More and more, until it becomes a blizzard. The music is beautiful but tense, and together with the blizzard, it makes the whole experience quite suspenseful. This is an amazing stage, and I give it an A. But a few things hold it back from being perfect. The heavy snow obscures vision, and while it's thematically awesome, it's hindering while you have to navigate lots of very precise movements and timings. Obscured vision is never a good or fun challenge in video games. And not to this stage's credit, because you would never find this on your own, but there's a secret barrel placed in a spot off-screen in a bottomless pit that skips the entire last portion of this heavy blizzard area. So we emerge from the blinding blizzard for the slip-slide ride. The floor is slippery, as is par for the course and ice levels. But then we got these ropes that you automatically slide up or down on. The blue ones take you up, and the red ones go down. It's an interesting mechanic. It offers a fair challenge with clever enemy placement. And each stage yet still maintains unique styles of gameplay. And on top of that, this place is absolutely stunning. The way that the crystals flash is a really nice effect. Easy A+ level. Alright, let's see Ice Age Alley. If you turn around at the start, you can find Espresso, but this isn't a very good level for him to be in. I want to like Espresso, and he would be fun to play as, but you literally can't defeat any enemies with him. And they like to pair him against these jumping boys. They're in all of his stages. It's like you're meant to lose your buddy just as soon as you find him. All the other animal buddies feel like they've got stages designed around them, but Espresso barely gets to run or fly anywhere. It's really lame. Something else that's kind of lame about this stage is that you can't even reach the first bonus area with him. You have to drop him to get to it. They knew he couldn't make the jump, so they put another animal crate in here. But then there's a second bonus area later in the level that you can only reach with him. But also, this level just isn't designed for him. Why can't he bounce on anyone? If they don't want him to have that ability, then at least place enemies in such a way that he can run over them. And it's like enemies are placed in such a way that you can't hardly jump past them either. It really feels like a chore trying to complete this level with Espresso. And it's not a particularly great stage without him either. Enemy placement is a lot more frustrating than it is challenging. And then you've got all of these awkwardly steep angles that lead off camera. I think this stage is kind of bad. I'm gonna give it a fat D. So next up we got Croctopus Chase. Sounds promising. Is that a croctopus? No, that's a croctopus. I thought these bananas were here, telling me to wait for the croctopus to pass, but he actually stops here. What a bait. Aside from a couple of traps, this is another fantastic water level, and the chase is a nice twist on it. It's a solid A. We emerge from the frozen depths to enter the Torchlight Trouble. You are now entering the Torchlight Trouble. Oh, it's spooky in here. That's better. I don't like obscured vision as a challenge in games. This isn't too bad though. It's more thematic than it is hindering, but I don't like how it flashes the screen every time you turn around. It's hard to look at. In this bonus area, it's really bad. Feels like I'm getting solar flared.
Solar flare!
Aside from the blinding flashes, this is a rather interesting level. Plus, it's short and sweet. An easy B. And that leads us up to the Rope Bridge Rumble. Let's get it. Oh, it's another one of these. And we get Spanky the Frog. That's what I'm talking about. Swanky can bounce on red zingers. He's a real killer. But you're telling me that Cappuccino can't even jump on a single enemy? Pathetic. Anyway, this stage is excellent, and with an actually good animal buddy, it's even better. A+. See those bananas? It's boss time. Really naughty rampage. Oh no. He's so naughty. This beaver is throbbing. At first, this fight seems unpredictable and chaotic, but the trick is that every time you bounce on him, he'll do a high jump for each damage he's taken, and you can't damage him again until after he does them all. I like this fight. It's another A+ boss battle. So far, all of the bosses have been novelly fun. And beating the beaver polishes off World 4, which was a really cool area. That one snow level was kinda bad, but the rest of the stages are so good. World 5 is Creme Croc Industries Incorporated. So let's get to work in Oil Drum Alley. I love the song that plays here. This is a really interesting and well put together stage. And the challenge is just right. I really like this part where you have to wait for the fires to go down. I also love how all this stuff is just floating in midair. Only in video games. Something really neat about this stage though is that there's a bonus area hidden inside of a bonus area. By completing the first challenge, you're gifted a barrel, and if you run it into the wall, then you'll go to a second bonus area. But as an odd glitch or something, if you fail the first bonus area, or fail to get into the second bonus room for any reason at all, then you'll never be able to get in there afterwards. And the only way to get into the second bonus area is to collect all 3 singular bananas, which will then grant you the barrel that you need to open the door. If you collect anything else from this first bonus area, then you will not be gifted the barrel that you need to open the door to the second one. And you have to do it right on the first try. Because if you don't get it on the first try, then you will never be able to get in there even if you come back. Because if you come back, running the barrel into the wall after having botched it the first time breaks open the wall, but then you celebrate and get kicked out before you can get in there. And you have to actually enter that second room for it to count towards the 100% complete true ending. I guess you better do it right the first time, or else you'll have to reset. Aside from the totally bugged bonus area, this stage is awesome, and it gets an A. Alright, so next up, we got Trick, Track, Trek. It's another one of those scaffolding stages. Except in this one, you ride around on this conveyor thing. It's a good stage, and it's got a fair challenge to it. Enemies are very well placed. It's a solid B. And that leads us to Elevator Antics. As the name would imply, this level is full of elevators. It's a neat stage, and a good challenge. I appreciate how even still this far in, each of the stages continue to be very different from each other, and they each also have their own mechanics. I don't think this stage is super amazing in any way, but it is really good, so I'll give it a B+. The elevator stage sends us to the Poison Pond. You know what that means. It's a swimming level. Except this time, it's all stank. We still got the aquatic ambience playing in the background, and it makes this place feel really sad. However, it's still full of life. There's a large variety of enemies swimming about, and it's still a beautiful stage. We also have these tire things spinning around down here, perhaps contributing to the pollution. There's a lot of tight spots, and you have to proceed carefully. I quite enjoy the challenge here. So none of the water levels have any bonus areas, but there is still some room for exploration. Of course you can always find On Guard under the sea, but you get punished for exploring in a few spots. Like here, where you just get baited and trapped by a shark. I know that there's no reason to really explore the water levels, but they're all so good that I just want to go everywhere I can to see it all. This stage is fantastic, and it gets an A. Next up, we got Minecart Madness. The first minecart level had a difficulty appropriate for about where we are now. Okay, so in this one, rather than jumping with the minecart, you jump out of the minecart and go from cart to cart. And you have to be really precise. Like there's a few times where I thought I made a jump, but just fell through the next minecart. so Diddly Dong jumps higher than Conky does. And there's this bonus stage that I don't think John Kong can reach. But once you get in the first minecart, you'll never be able to swap Kongs. I just couldn't get to it as Donkey, but got it on the first try with Diddy. This stage is honestly just about as difficult, or maybe only slightly harder than the first one from back in World 2. They are very different from each other. Jumping out of the minecarts takes a bit of getting used to, but it makes the two stages very different from each other in an interesting way. Overall, I think it's a good stage, and I'll give it a B. And that leads us to the Blackout Basement. Oh no. Well, it's another one of these, where the gimmick is obscured vision. At least this one doesn't assault your eyes. It's not a particularly difficult stage, it's fairly easy, and that's because the constant strobing is supposed to be the main challenge. These types of levels aren't really all that fun. It's thematically really neat, but the type of gameplay that it incites is just constant stop and go. Take 2 steps and wait. Okay, now make 1 jump and wait. It's tedious. Even with the constant strobing, I don't think this is a bad stage necessarily. It's fine. So I'll give it a C, and we can move on to the boss. The Dumb Drum. It's one of those barrels that spawns enemies. He tries to slam down on you, then pours out some baddies for you to fight. I really enjoy this style of boss battle. I would like for this battle to be longer or more difficult, but I don't know if that would make it too hard. Either way, this is another A+ boss fight. Chemcroc Industries was overall a very good area, but that Blackout stage really holds it back, and there's a few other things that could have been done a lot better. So Chimp Caverns is the final set of stages. And the first one is Tanked Up Trouble. I love the atmosphere of the scaffolding environment. It's such a chill vibe. So we ride around on the conveyor again, except this time we have to collect these fuel items to keep it going. It's a fun twist, and the layout of the stage is challenging and fun at the same time. I really like this part where you have to jump off and roll a tire onto the conveyor so that you can then bounce up to some more fuel. I like that the game isn't afraid to challenge the player like this in its final world. This stage is an easy A. Following that, we've got Manic Mincers. Turns out those spinning wheel things are called mincers. And in this cave, they go every which way. I find it rather odd for Rambi to be in a cave level, but we haven't seen him in a while. It's not easy to go very far with him based on how big he is, and the size of those moving mincers. I feel like it's meant to be a tough stage though. And it's not at all like those espresso stages, where everything just goes against his design. With or without Rambi, this stage is excellent. It's got a good challenge to it, and you'll be on your toes till the very end. It's a solid A. Escaping the blender brings us to the Misty Mine.
You are now entering the Misty Mine.
This stage really is a gauntlet. Enemies constantly respawn out of those drums. It actually makes the stage rather exciting. I'd like to see a few more stages get packed with enemies like this. This line of naughties here is the only time that I've ever comboed enough enemies to get an extra life outside of that one bonus level. We just don't usually see that many enemies in quick succession. The sound effects also make them very satisfying to bounce on. I wonder why there aren't more levels where the whole point of it is just to fight enemies. Something else that's kind of neat about this stage is that all of the Kong letters are all found together in the same bonus area. You ride this rope across the screen and then alternate between up and down to get them all. It's just a cool bonus area. This is an awesome A+ stage, and I wish some other levels would pack in more enemies. After clearing the Misty Mine, we turn the corner for the loopy lights. Oh, please no. Don't be one of those. Well, it sure is. I guess this one isn't too bad though. You can still see yourself and the enemies when the lights go out. It only makes it hard to distinguish where the floor is. Not a particularly fun mechanic though. You'd be incentivized to quickly rush to the next light switch, but enemies are placed in such a way to punish you for running ahead. So you're forced to enjoy the darkness. It is the 90s after all. Donkey Kong's getting a little bit older, a little bit edgy. Just wait for Shadow the Kong to come out. Not only does he swear like a sailor, but he often uses culturally offensive words in a southern accent. He's the modern anti-hero we've all been waiting for. The encroaching darkness, however deep, is lame as a video game mechanic. There is one really cool part here where these zingers are at. When the lights are off, there's this glow in the background that creates an interesting aesthetic, and you can still see everything just fine. If the whole level were like this, then it would look really cool. All in all though, this level is alright. It's fine. It's a C. Next up, we got Platform Peril. I'm pretty sure that's the name of a Mario Party minigame. Same thing, really. You have to quickly leap from platform to platform as they one by one fall into the abyss. Some of them ride on in a direction for a bit before dropping off, and this part towards the end is really interesting. The platforms carry you in many different directions, and you need to quickly grab these barrels so that you can knock out what might be guarding your next ride. I really like this stage, and it offers a good challenge here towards the end of the game. Definitely an A. A curious thing that happens in this stage though, that I can't recall ever seeing before. So there's a zinger that flies around this checkpoint barrel, and jumping into it, or coming out of it, takes him out. I guess the explosion from save barrels damages enemies. Does that ever come up in another country game? I feel like this is the only time I've ever seen that. It's neat though. I'd say that this was a very satisfying last stage. And here we are, at the last boss, before the final boss. Necky's Revenge. Oh, he's going through a hot topic phase. So Necky's an edgelord now, who only lives for revenge. He thinks he's dark, but no amount of eyeshadow can save you from the expanded dong. Now the trick to this one is quite similar to the belligerent beaver. Every time you hit him, he shoots an extra nut. So he's into that too, huh? We gotta put an end to this. Another excellent A+ boss fight to wrap up the last area, which was fantastic, just like the whole game has been. There was that one janky stage with the light switches. It wasn't really all that bad though, and the other stages far and away make up for it anyway. Now at long donkey last, it's time for the Gangplank Galleon. I love how you fight him on a ship, and you can see Donkey Island in the distance. He's relatively easy for a last boss, and he follows the usual boss pattern. He'll run at you an extra time for each damage he's taken. And then in the second phase, cannonballs rain down from the sky, and you'll get an extra wave of those for each time you hit him. An extremely memorable moment that anyone who's played this game will remember is that after you beat his second phase, it starts rolling credits. It starts showing the names of characters, and you think the game is over. But it's actually a fake out. And K. Rool gets back up for another round. I was standing in the wrong spot, apparently. He's going crazy now. Just 2 more hits brings him down for good. This final fight is absolutely fantastic. A+ for sure. This game is just so full of personality, and it's been amazing all the way up till the very end. Even the credits has all this fun stuff in it. First, we get to see the cliché roll call, where they show us all the enemies and their names that you didn't even know they had. But then, here's this other part where the dongs are teasing and beating each other up. This wouldn't be acceptable today. Not now. That's not politically correct. But it is really cute having extra scenes like this. And of course, we got Cranky Kong up in here telling us up. This game is amazing, and Donkey Kong Country gets an A. It's a blast.